It's not good enough to just be good at what you do. You have to know how to get the message out in appropriate ways. You have to speak not only to the ways you deliver and how you're different and all those things that you would expect, but you really have to talk to the problems that people are having that you are the solution for.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
We know that building an attraction-based brand is about positioning yourself to attract the people who are seeking a solution that only you can provide. But how do you prepare them even more to be open to your offers? Our guest today is Merritt Kahn. She's worked with salespeople, entrepreneurs, professionals, and sales teams, teaching them how to stop selling and start getting selected by their ideal clients.
Merritt, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Tanya, for having me. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. We're excited to have you here because I think we have this awesome alignment here, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all about building this attraction-based brand and really pulling in, magnetizing those people that see that, oh my gosh, that's what problem you solve. I have this problem, help me out. But then there is a bit of a difference between I've set this up, I'm attracting these people, but then you still have to sell it, right?
Right.
So tell us how you came upon the open to offers concept.
Well, I have been doing business development, sales management, training, coaching, consulting, and speaking since about 1998. So I've worked with a lot of different people across a lot of different industries. And I think the most common frustration is that people are really good at what they do and they're frustrated because it should be easier to close business. So, it's not good enough to just be good at what you do. You have to know how to get the message out in appropriate ways. You have to speak not only to the ways you deliver and how you're different and all those things that you would expect, but you really have to talk to the problems that people are having that you are the solution for. And I think the thing that is unique to all of the different kinds of people and industries that I've worked with over 20 plus years is that they're all selling something that's either creative, complex, or custom. This is not like a click here, buy now kind of a thing. And so if that's your business, if you're selling a product or a service that is really customized for your client, you can't just generically give them all of these, answers. You have to ask good questions, really deliberately listen to what their challenges are, and then know how to craft your solution so that they hear the opportunity in it.
That's a good takeaway.
Yeah, it is. The right questions are so much more important than the right answers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The questions that people are bringing you are not really the questions. There's usually something a little deeper. And I know that to be true even from my dating life, right? Like somebody will say, are we busy on Friday night? And what they mean is, do you have anything better to do or would you go out with me? Like, well,
Then you get an answer.
Then you get an answer. Then you get an answer to the real question.
That's hilarious. What do top performing sales professionals and entrepreneurs need to know to consistently grow their business?
Well, I think there's really three things that are going to make someone a top performer, whether it's business development or leadership. It really comes down to what I call my open for business framework. And that is, you have to have the mechanics of what you say, but that's going to come out of having a strong success mindset. So it's really about, if you think, let me step back. The three parts are mindset, mechanics, and motion. So mindset is what you think, mechanics is what you say, and motion is what you do. So when most of the time when people have even come into my own training programs, they want to learn the mechanics of selling, right? Like, what do I say when a prospect asks me this? What do I do next in the sales process? It's very tactical, process structured, sales approach. But the question is, okay, if you had all that, what keeps you from executing it, right? So sometimes people know what to say, but the words don't come out of their mouth. And that's mostly a mindset issue. Like, I could teach you how to hold your rate, protect your margins. I could teach you what to say to get somebody to open up about the money that they've set aside to invest to solve this problem. But if you think, I'll make up numbers, if you think $5,000 is a lot of money and what you sell is 20, well, it's gonna, I could teach you the right words all day long, but in your head, you might think, gosh, it's a little expensive what we do. And so you lower and negotiate with yourself before you even ask them for the money that it's going to take to solve their problem. So mindset is really the foundation of everything. And I do feel like when there are gaps in our mindset, the skills that you've learned kind of fall through those gaps and you don't have access to them in that moment that you need them. So what we have to first do is close any gaps, like your level of assertiveness and how is that in balance with your level of empathy for others. For in a sales situation, as an example, if those two are out of whack and not in balance, you're either going to have somebody who's a little too aggressive with their offers and not at all in tune to putting themselves in someone else's shoes, in which case they're kind of coming across as one of those jerky salespeople, pushy and aggressive. But if you're out of whack on the other end of the spectrum, if you're too high in empathy for others and not enough assertiveness to balance that out, then you're the person who's going to be constantly like checking in and seeing how things are going and, like being a friend or giving away too much of your expertise for free without ever asking to close the deal. Then that's not going to make you successful either. So there are a lot of these hidden things that we need to look at to find these gaps so that when we do teach the actual skills, the mechanics of selling, we know that they're going to be useful because we've closed any of those gaps.
Okay, well, that brings me to the next question. Yeah, I understand that totally. And we see that, in our personal branding business. You can see where people are weak and where they really need to shore up, right? But in your experience, is any one of those more important, the mindset, the mechanics, and the motion? Which seems to be the most important to you, or is there more important?
It's a great question. I think all three of them are important. What I've noticed is when you focus on one as the be all and end all at the expense of the others, those others are the ones that are going to sabotage you in spite of how great you are. So a lot of times I see this with motion. A lot of times people will think, well, I'm doing, and I'm constantly busy. And these are the salespeople or business owners that get so frustrated and they experience burnout because they're working so hard, but it's really not working to get them to their aggressive goals. And that's a classic case of somebody along the way told them sales is a numbers game and, just make these many pitches, make these many phone calls. Well, sure, pick up the phone and do all the things. But if you don't take a moment to stop and look and say, actually, I'm not getting any further, I'm not getting any results with these actions that I'm taking. So do I need to shift what I'm saying? Or is there something that is leading the way in my mindset that is getting me stuck before I even get started, right? So there's, sometimes people pick up the phone. In fact, I was speaking at an event a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys, I asked the question, you could sell more if only what? Fill in the blank. And I gave him some choices. And he said, what I noticed is I pick up the phone, I'm doing all my dials like I'm supposed to, but in my head, I'm kind of hoping that I get their voicemail. And I'm like, well, how many sales have you made to voicemails? Your ideal client on a voicemail? That's not going to work. So, but it was interesting because prior to my asking that question, he had never really articulated that. And so what he identified just in that brief moment was that it wasn't that he didn't know what to say. It's that he was leading his mindset was leading the way for more voicemails. And so he shifted that thinking. Part of what shifted that thinking was he became more comfortable with what to say. Because he was hoping for voicemail, what that said to me as a coach is there's something you're not comfortable with about the conversation you would have with an actual human that has you wanting their voicemail. You are wanting a delayed sales process. You're wanting to lengthen your sales cycle unnecessarily. So let's look at how can we help you feel more confident in the actual conversation so that you are looking forward to the time when somebody's going to pick up the phone and you get to have that conversation with a human. And it changed the game. It's still early. It was only a couple weeks ago that he had that epiphany. So I'll check back with him and I'll check back with you later. But it's interesting how just those little nuances make a real big difference.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're huge. The voicemail thing, I can get it, like why you would want that. But for me, voicemail always scared me because I got one shot to get it right. If I'm talking to somebody and I say something, I stumble over something like that, then I can brush over it. We can continue talking. I can see the body language and how they're doing, especially on Zoom nowadays. And then I can see if I can recover from something that maybe I think I should have said. When I'm leaving a voicemail, if I don't have a script, I'm like,
Yeah. Well, not only that, but even if you did have a script, then it sounds scripted. So
yeah. It's so, but I do like the fact that you boil down those little tricks of the trade. And, I do think sales is a numbers game, but the problem with it is you can't just lump it into numbers. Like you said, like if you're selling bricks and you're calling dentist, I used this earlier today on another podcast. How many numbers? Like what? It don't matter. You could call 1 million people. Not buying. The dentist isn't buying bricks. You might find one guy that's like, I'm glad you called me. I'm building a house or something. But so if you got to dial in that ideal customer, and that is work that's very important to set your stage for success. And then also you learn what it is, and eventually over time, like Tanya's clients, so she knows exactly what they're going to ask. She knows every objection she's done it for 11 years. There's not an objection she hasn't already heard 1 million times, and she's ready for it. And
objections only come down to about 6 or 8 anyway.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
That's true.
And
they're all lies.
Yeah.
Especially the one where I don't have the money. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
People will find incredible ways to fund projects they're personally committed to.
Exactly.
Your job is, what you do for your clients is, help them clarify their brands and get all of that handled. That's the marketing side of things. That is so important because without that, it makes it infinitely more difficult to have an effective sales relationship. And so while I do think sales is a numbers game at some level, it's also very much a people and relationship game. And we can't forget that, which is why it's so important, that what you're doing, because if your brand is, outwardly saying something that is not congruent to how you are with the relationships that you're building and the ways that you work with clients, it's going to register for that person, that prospect or client. And
it's a disconnect.
It's a disconnect.
It's a disconnect.
Recognize that disconnect, then they start to question, like, where are all the other disconnects? And that's just not going to build the relationship that you want. It's not going to lead to effective selling. But I think, there's always a strong relationship between marketing and selling. For me, marketing is everything that happens before a conversation. Once you're in a conversation, the sales part has begun. What I see people doing is going backwards in that process. They're literally in a conversation with someone and the prospect asks a question and they say, well, have you seen our website? And I'm like, oh my God, don't do that.
You just went back to the back of the line.
Here's your chance.
Yes, that's really, really silly. But there again, that shines a light. It's like a telegraphing, hey, there's something I'm not comfortable with in the sales conversation, in the relationship building process. So I'm going to send you somewhere where I don't have to deal with it. That's, it's code for them. Like, I'm not comfortable with this process, so I'm going to bail. And that's not going to lead with many trips to the bank.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. And again, I like too that the way you articulate things, because there are so many nuances that come about, about it. And what do you think about like goal-oriented conversations too? Like I know Tanya was working with a client and they were doing research and development to try to find out their ideal customer, right? And so they're just getting on the phone with the people that are in their space. But there was no culmination at the end of it. And so reviewing it and looking back at the recordings, and people would be like, okay, what you got going on? Well, I just wanted to talk. I just want to have a conversation. Well, that's okay. And that's good. And you get to know somebody. But at the end of the day, that call, they don't know why they're on that call. And just to talk, they'd probably talk to their neighbor or their mother or something like that. It probably wouldn't be a stranger even in their space, right? And so Tanya's like, there has to be an end game. Like you have to say, okay, we're going to accomplish 3 things with this call. We've only got 30 minutes. Here they are. Or we've got, and it really like transformed the way he thought about things. He's like, oh, okay, well now that makes sense. Totally transformed the script and sales began to do better. So don't you think you have to have a plan?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm glad you used that word. That's how I teach it. I teach PLAN, but it's an acronym. PLAN stands for purpose, logistics, agenda, next steps. And one of the things I learned early in my career is, well, I should say early in my career, I made a lot of mistakes, as any brand new coach or trainer would. But I taught people like scripts, here's what to say exactly on the call. And, that doesn't really work for a number of reasons, but your style is going to be different than my style. Michael, the way that you say something is going to be different than the way that Tanya says it, even if you're going for the same outcome. And I think what I've learned is it's much easier for somebody to remember a formula. And then with the formula, it doesn't really matter what the words are that you choose, as long as you get all the parts of the formula. So for example, it would start like this. The purpose of this conversation today is to get to know each other's business, to really talk through what the challenges are that you're dealing with right now, and to see if I could help. So here's our agenda. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions just so I have an understanding, background, what's going on, what you've done to try to fix things that are not working, and the solutions you've already thought of. And you can ask me as many questions as you have about how we work and the success rates that we've had, or the investment, if it makes sense. And 1 of 2 things is going to happen at the end. Either we determine together we're a good fit and we should figure out what a next step looks like. Maybe it's another meeting. Maybe it's an outline of how we would specifically work together. Or maybe it's, I'm glad we talked and we don't see a match, and then we'll just shake hands and part friends. So that's kind of PLAN. And I actually, by the time I got to N, I realized I forgot logistics. So I would have said in there, like, by the way, we scheduled 30 minutes for this call. Does that still work for you? I always want to reconfirm the time at the beginning, because if I think we have 30 minutes and then 10 minutes into it, they're like, oh, by the way, I got to go. You got to.
Get already. Yes.
Yeah. So
that's true. There's the disconnect already, right?
Yeah. I think, having a plan, that's just one of the formulas that I teach in the mechanics of selling or leadership. You could use that in a number of different ways. So it's really designed to protect your time, to make sure that everyone's clear on the expectations of the interaction.
I like it.
I do too. We've had this conversation a lot, because what happens a lot of times is people, let's take real estate agents, for example. We've done a lot of work with real estate because Michael's in that field. And so we'll hear from them a lot. Well, so-and-so, this program didn't work, or this marketing platform didn't work. And a lot of times their coaches and trainers get a lot of the blame for what doesn't work. So we have to look at them, and back to your point of you wrote scripts for them one day. Well, there's nothing wrong with writing a script as long as they understand that they need to deliver it their way, right? But what happens when you give 50,000 real estate agents the same script in the same state or city, right? Then you've got a real problem. So if they have not differentiated themselves already as part of their personal brand to say, hey, I know you're being called by 1,400 real estate agents a day. Here's exactly who I am and exactly what I do. I think we're a perfect fit because of these things here. And here is exactly what I would like to do as a next step. Would that be acceptable to you, kind of thing? You can still use that kind of script, but flower it with your own personal brand, with what's unique about you. So there's like that beautiful hybrid, I think, that can happen with the mechanics, as you say, not necessarily in speaking, but the mechanics of like a formula or script. You can make those two work really well together. But you're right. I mean, I've been in sales since 1985, when I started selling vacuum cleaners door to door. Woof. That was rough, right? So I know, like, I get very passionate about this stuff, because you're right about that. Everybody's so different. We can have the same end goal, 5 minutes to talk, and we're going to come at it from 2 totally different angles. So how do you handle clients like that? All the personalities are so different. I'd love to hear how you handle working with all those different personalities.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. That's a big question.
Yeah, that's a lot, probably. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That's the whole purpose of a good interview. I think, first of all, there's certainly different personality styles, behavioral styles. What I think is most important in how do you differentiate yourself and your personal brand, I think you really want to spend a little time to get clear about the kinds of people you like to work with, right? There's an infinite number of people buying and selling homes, right? We'll go with that example. If you are a comedian like I am, you might want to work with people who are funny, right? Or appreciate humor. If you are a writer, maybe you want to work with people that also find writing a good way of expressing themselves, or they're in that business. So it's a whole different marketing strategy when you brand yourself with something that is unique to you. And that way, let's say you become the real estate agent or broker for people, for writers. I don't know, I'm just making up stuff, right? Something
No, keep going. You're good.
The reason that works is you're speaking their language right away. So you might say, there's 1,400 real estate agents in this market. They would all love to work with you. So I don't know if we are a perfect match to work together, but one of my passions is writing. And that's why I love meeting other writers. And it may be that there's a writer in this group or reading this blog who feels passionate about writing like I do. And well, how does that matter with, buying or selling a house? Because I know that you are going to be able to articulate through writing exactly what you're looking for. And that's how I'm going to help you, because we speak the same language, right? It could be anything like that, but pick something that's unique and fun for you, because it makes it more joyful to go out and prospect. And all of a sudden, all new worlds and categories are open to you that the typical agent may not be going to for prospecting. But while you're out there doing something you love to do, meeting people who like the same things you like, now you're building rapport at a different level. And, it's just one other little nuance. Is it the only thing that you should do for marketing? No. Is it one other thing to add to your mix to find something that's important to you? Maybe you're a car enthusiast or a gardener, right? Like, go to the places that you enjoy, but speak about your business offer in context to that. So in my world, I wrote and performed a one-woman comedy show. I love performing comedy. I love working with people who are open to finding the humor in frustrating situations. And so when I do my one-woman comedy show, I let people know I love to make you laugh. And also, if you're frustrated with, anything related to growing your business or leading a team of people, or you're running a conference and you want a speaker who's going to be engaging and funny, but also deliver good content, like, this is the whole package. This is all of who I am. And, it's just kind of like using my passion to grow my business.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Because one of our good buddies, Shaddy Bazzi, he's got a great podcast. He's in the real estate space. He's a great coach and got a good following, fantastic human being. And he's just like, chase the conversation, man. You have to chase the conversation, not the commission. You have to go after that person. And then, like you said, then the prospecting isn't this chore or something. Because the worst case scenario is you're going to know somebody else that likes stuff you like. And you haven't wasted each other's time. It's also a great opener. It's also a great way to do those prospecting calls that nobody on earth wants to do. And then it becomes that connector that you could build on. So I like that a lot. The worst case scenario is you're going to find somebody else that likes comedy or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And speaking
the
of,
best case scenario, you find somebody likes comedy and they're going to hire you as a coach to help them grow their business, or as a speaker to help talk to their people.
Yeah.
So,
laugh all the way to the
it'll
bank,
be fun,
right?
You get to laugh all the way to the bank. Exactly.
That's right.
There you go.
So, Mary, what's your one-woman comedy show about?
Well, it sounds a little like it's the story of my life. It's called, current working title is Book of Merit, but it's really the story of everyone's life, right? So I take you through the roller coaster ride of like ups and downs, all the drama, but I take you through the stories of my life through the lens of a comedian. And the opportunity for the audience is to see their own roller coaster ride of life as places to mine for humor. Because how many times have you been told, you can't change the past, you can't rewrite the past? Well, I am living proof. I literally rewrote my past, and it has absolutely changed my future. And I think that's available to all of us. So while I wrote the show a little bit for my own therapy, it really has become an opportunity for people to get past some of their own drama and find their own opportunities. Because, if you look at your past like a victim, like, oh, woe is me, all these things happened and there's bad things in all of our lives, that gives you a very predictable future. When you are able to loosen the reins, lighten up about your own life, find the funny, it opens up a whole new way of seeing future opportunities. And it really was a game changer for me. And I'm very passionate about bringing that experience to other people.
That's really cool. I tell everybody, they say, how you doing? I'm like, every day's Saturday. And they're like, oh, I wish I could live in your world. And I'm like, you can. Just decide you're not going to live in any day that's not Saturday, And I'll follow it up sometimes. I'll tell them, some days it's grass cutting Saturdays. Some days it's sitting by the pool drinking beer Saturdays. They're all a little different. But at the end of the day, they're all Saturdays.
It's about the mindset.
It is the mindset.
He's doing the mechanics right now.
Yeah.
Get an emotion Saturday by the pool with the beer.
I love it.
But see what you've taught us already, Mary?
That's right.
My work here is done.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Okay, we've got an oddball question here as we wrap up.
Right.
And I hate it. And we've definitely got to have you back on because it's such a great conversation. You've got so much more to share. If our listeners had the freedom to visit anywhere in the world, which place would you recommend to them and why?
Oh, wow. What a genius question. Okay, well, I just got back from Southeast Asia. It was my second trip to that region and my second time visiting Cambodia, which is not on most travelers' bucket list, but I really do believe it's a place that deserves a spot on your bucket list. There's the ruins of Angkor Wat are absolutely
Yes.
It's in my top 3.
Yes.
I got to go.
I've been there twice in a lifetime, when most people don't get to see that once, is pretty extraordinary. I had been there 30 years ago and then again recently. And I think what is magical is if you allow the place to shift a perspective and you go and you see these unbelievable detail, structures that have withstood the test of time. And then you go into some I did some service project work over there, like working with children's schools and teaching kids to read and some different things. It was just amazing to be in that environment, to think, how blessed we are if you're listening in most of the Western world, and to have an opportunity to give back. So I do think that was a life-changing experience, maybe not as relaxing as the poolside margarita vacation, but definitely worth a visit.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is on our list.
We've talked about it lately.
We have. I've been a fan and read on Angkor Wat a lot because I'm so fascinated with it. And I think if memory serves right, it's the largest temple under one roof on Earth, like 5 acres.
Yes.
And they built it.
Roof necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah, in the sprawl, I guess. And then didn't they build it and then carved it, which is what makes it even more amazing than like Roman structures and stuff where they carved them and then they built them and they made the pieces fit together.
It's pretty remarkable. And there's just so many, it's vast and beautiful. And, there's really nothing better than seeing it at sunrise, except maybe sunset. It's just a beautiful thing. The people are beautiful there. And highly recommend it.
Like it. I like it. We've never got that answer before either, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Another first.
Another first. Okay, so let's round this out with tell everybody what's the best way to learn more about you or contact you.
The best way would be my website, which is meritkhahn.com, MERITKAHN.com. There's always a Let's Talk button, so just go ahead and grab some time on my calendar. Tell me what's going on for you. We'll see if it makes sense for us to work together, or if there's a resource I can point you in the direction of. There is also on that page a free online analysis. I call it the sales SWOT. And, it's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But I actually ask some very specific questions about mindset, mechanics, and motion. And then what's very unique about that offer is you do not get a boilerplate email back. You get a video of me or someone on my team literally saying Hi, Tanya. I looked at your report. Here's a couple things I think you're doing great. Stay the course. And here's a couple things I want to point out as an opportunity for you. So it is 100% custom. One of these days, we're going to have to charge for it. But right now, it's a gift. So take advantage of it. It's really a good experience. And then the other thing, I'll just plant a seed. I've been doing VIP days. It's a 2-day experience. We get you completely soup to nuts, ready to go for salespeople that just need a real good restart. They need to focus, get back in action, get a good look at their top 100 prospects, end up with a spreadsheet of exactly who they are, map out their ideal target, map out their goals, their game plan. I mean, we really cover a lot of ground in a very short period of time. It's a total game changer. So if you are frustrated and you're thinking, I don't even know who to call on anymore, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say on the phone, it's like, it's a quick, fast shot at organizing everything you need to get back into powerful sales action.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
VIP days. I like it.
VIP day. You got it. Merritt, you've been a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And everybody, contact Merritt if you have any frustration with the sales process. That's about 99.9% of you, probably, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all of us, yeah.
That's right. It's all of us. Thanks again, Merritt. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.